Let's bring on Mike Florio. Mike, how you doing?
You guys saw the double bird that I gave too, just to make sure that we're on the same page. How are you?
We're on the same page here. Hey, sorry for a second. I got a little stomach issue right now, Mike. So I got to have my hip Pepto moment.
Hey, I've been there and I've done that. 1986, probably before you were born. I don't know. 4th of July. Ran a 10K race that day. Ran it as hard as I've ever ran a 10K race in my life. Finished in, I think, 38:40 back when I was in shape. And it gave me a serious stomach issue. And my friends and I went to Pittsburgh that day for the 4th of July celebrations. And I had to carry around a bottle of Pepto-Bismol in a paper bag. And people were like, hey, you got some beverage there. It's like, yeah, I got Pepto-Bismol. Yeah, sure, it's Pepto-Bismol. Yes, it was Pepto-Bismol all day long. Because I was having to make a mad dash to a bathroom whenever I could find one.
See, it's the medicine that stretches decades and can help for many different reasons there. So I appreciate you sharing that, Mike. Mine is not because I ran a marathon. Mine's just probably more stress related. But I appreciate it. And I think I appreciate you the most here for saying, I don't know if you were born yet. Thank you for that, because at the Super Bowl, Torrey Smith roasted my ass, saying there's no way you're younger than me. Todd Monken got that kicked off when we had him on here right after the season, right after Harbaugh got let go, and he thought I was 42. Brandon Stokely came on the show and said I was 50, and you know where it starts with? It starts with this, Mike. They said the hairline. I'm 32 for the record. Okay, so I want to thank you very much for not assuming that I'm older than I might look.
Well, that's good. And hey, it's always good to look a little more mature because people will take you more seriously. So that's the key. You're younger, but they're taking you more seriously because they think you're older.
Zach, you see that? Is that why you've been growing the beard, Zach?
Yeah, it's working on it. We got to it's baby steps.
Yeah, Mike, Zach's 26 now.
Yeah, 26 now. 26 now. So getting up there.
He's the baby of the group. Well, Mike, a few things that have been – well, first off, before getting into the news, what was one of your favorite highlights of Super Bowl week? I rarely saw you. You were running around. But what was one of the favorite things that you got to be a part of? Obviously, it's a big game. But anything behind the scenes that you really enjoyed?
God, the whole week was just a blur. And I'll tell you what was really significant and had nothing to do with why we were there. I lived in the Bay Area in the 80s when I was in college in Pittsburgh. I was in a co-op work program, and Chevron has a big refinery there, and I was working there. I'd go back to school for a semester. I'd go back to California. So I had a few really good friends that I hadn't seen in 40 years. And I've never had that experience in my life where you have really good friends that you see all the time. One guy I worked with, one guy we lived in the same apartment. And to go 40 years without seeing someone, it's a trip. And they've had the ability to see me on TV and YouTube and wherever, but I hadn't seen them. And it was just wild. Two different experiences that week where back together with someone that both guys were really good friends in different ways, and to see them for the first time 40 years later, that was a trip. And that was it probably won't be another 40 years until I see them because we'll both be dead by then. So that was memorable more than anything else that happened, because every Super Bowl is the same. It's hectic. It's crazy. You get to interview a bunch of different people. We hang out with Justin Jefferson. That part of it's fun, but that part of it's the same every year. To have an experience like that I'd never even had on my radar screen, that was wild.
It's those little things that everyone has different reasons of why it's special. And that's what I've come to learn from this whole experience. And growing up in my situation and then now being on the other side in the media, it's not the big glamour that you see. It's the personal reasons of why it makes it special. So I'm glad you got to enjoy that, Mike. And it is a chaotic week. And I find out, even though football season's over, still, you never fully sleep. You got to pick back up with free agency. Or if you're in our neck of the woods, Baltimore went through a huge change. Everybody was gone on the coaching staff. Well, mainly, but the big names. Harbaugh's in New York. here comes a new staff. They all got introduced. So there's a lot of different ways I can look at this. So maybe I'll start with this part, Mike, on your side. All the coordinators got introduced today in Baltimore. There's a lot of young juice. There's a lot of new insights. Maybe some could say fresh ideas. There's Jesse Minter that still comes from the Harbaugh tree. But maybe just your initial assessment, if you got a chance to see any of it, or maybe what you would take away from it. And one thing I've always noticed is I think that this staff is ready to try to put their fingerprints on what they want the new Baltimore Ravens to be.
What is amazing to think how the changes that happened were sparked by an outcome that easily could have been different. I know Steve Bisciotti has said that even if the field goal hadn't been missed at the end of the Week 18 game in Pittsburgh, the change would have been made eventually. But if they had gotten to the Super Bowl or won it, the change isn't going to be made unless John Harbaugh wants out. And there was the game the first time around with the Steelers where a couple of very bad calls contributed to the Ravens losing that one. So it's just crazy how the margin can be so thin and a season goes one way versus the other. And I feel like what they've done, especially through head coach Jesse Minter, they've just basically gone out and found the closest thing they could find to a younger version of the Harbaugh brothers, because Jesse Minter has worked with both of them and they've had 4 years with Jesse Minter. So it's not like they're rolling the dice on someone they don't know. And I would expect that while he was there, like Eric DeCoste, the GM, would be doing with any assistant coach that he encounters, they don't just scout players, they scout coaches, because one of these days you're going to need to hire a coach. Who am I going to hire? Who are the guys that I like? Where are they on the list? And there was always a buzz that Minter was going to be a serious candidate. So I think that it will be as much like as it's been as they can make it. And they've been good. They haven't been good enough. They haven't fulfilled expectations. They haven't gotten to a Super Bowl, as we all know, with Lamar Jackson there. That's going to be the goal. But this one feels like the closest thing to trying to create a sense of continuity while also having dramatic change in the identity of the coaching staff.
Yeah, and I think you're right with the Minter selection for so many reasons. There's a comfortability, and it also it felt not maybe obvious, but everything aligned for why Jesse was going to be a strong candidate and why he ended up being the coach, from the familiarity to also the lineage. And you feel how John Harbaugh told us, you still feel like it's going to feel like the Baltimore Ravens to an extent. Now, you got some new pieces. Declan Doyle, I was hearing him talk about what he wants to do. A lot of things that he was saying. He's like, I want to hit the ground running in OTAs and trying to get everyone on the same page. You talk about continuity. You know, to me, I got from the press conference, there was an urgency to want to make sure that you want to get things right. And maybe I use the baseball analogy with this, Mike. Spring training's going on down right now. And actually staying in Baltimore, they have a new manager, first-year manager. And a lot of things that I've heard from him was, hey, I'm not trying to change everything up, but we want to implement how we want to run things as early as possible. Does that kind of make sense in this equation for Baltimore?
Oh, it absolutely does. And it makes the offseason program more important than it's been in years. And it also makes very important the starting quarterback making the commitment to be there. He's given up $1.5 million the last 2 years, combined $750,000 each season, in not showing up for enough of the offseason program to earn that payment. They need him to be all in. They need him to be there. They need him to be learning. They need him to be around, because that lays the foundation for hitting the ground sprinting when it's time to have training camp in the preseason and you get ready for week one. So it's important to have everyone all in, and there's going to be some roster changes. We're already seeing that happen. Teams moving on from veteran players, free agents will be signed, draft picks will come in. Every team is going to look a lot different when training camp opens than it looked when the season ended. And having the guys who are already there and are staying fully on board with this new coaching staff, that's going to be critical. And that means having guys there. And I know, and we hear all the time, oh, it's voluntary. It's voluntary. Well, come on. That's just the name they've applied to it. Every coach expects the key players to volunteer to be there. They need them to be there to learn the systems and be ready to go when it's time to be there on a not voluntary basis.
Well, I want to talk about some of the faces that may or may not be in Baltimore next year. But, Zach, did you want a quick follow-up before we jump to that gear?
Yeah, real fast. Mike, you kind of just talked about how Jesse Minter, that hiring was kind of maybe trying to find a younger version of the Harbaugh brothers and kind of keeping that, continuing what they built here with John. A lot of people in Baltimore kind of wanted a fresh look entirely and wanted, hey, let's not go to the Harbaugh tree. Let's get a completely different way of going about this. In your mind, was it a good decision to kind of pluck from the Harbaugh tree, keep some of those things going? Or do you think maybe they should have looked somewhere that didn't have anything to do with the Harbaughs?
They know their organization, their culture, and what they hope to have this thing turn into better than I will. Mm-hmm. You could make the argument, yes, let's just have a completely fresh start here. And one of the key questions, and I'm assuming we're going to get around to it eventually, and maybe we go there right now. What does Lamar Jackson think of this hire? How does he feel about it? Would he have preferred an offensive coach? Would he have preferred a head coach with head coaching experience? How is he reacting to, and we don't know because he never says, how's he reacting to a first-time head coach with a defensive background? And now you got an offensive coordinator. You know what? If things go well, Declan Doyle is going to be a head coach next year at the earliest. And then here comes a new offensive coordinator. And we've seen different offensive coordinators over the years in Baltimore under John Harbaugh, but that's one of the realities going forward. What does he think about this? And would he have preferred that a Mike McDaniel, just to throw out a name for a guy who was under consideration, a guy with head coaching experience who's a specialist in offense, is that what Lamar Jackson would have preferred? He keeps the cards close to the vest. He doesn't say much publicly. That's going to be a key. And even when it's time for him to talk to reporters again, he tends to say the right things. He wants to be a good teammate. He wants to defer to the process. But at the same time, we don't know what he really thinks. And I don't know that we ever will.
From what I understand now, Mike, just on my side of being, from things that I've heard, you're right. We don't hear a lot of public comments, but I do know with this process more than any other time that Steve Bisciotti is one of the most respected owners, I think, not just in football, all around sports. And he understands of what he needs and what the comfortability has to be with guys that he expects to be leading this franchise. And no mistake, Lamar is going to be at the forefront of that, right? And everything that I've heard about it, they're going to get everything restructured, and they are expecting it. So I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't, or he would not sign off on this. But I do understand from that side of it, Mike, is a lot of people want to see Lamar speak more. It's just not really his style. And the reality is, to be frank, we don't even have any of these conversations or a change in coach if the Ravens are in the Super Bowl at any point, right? Like it's because of the failures that these conversations are being brought up more. Is that a fair way to say this?
Yeah, and you said one thing that caught my attention, the idea of Lamar signing off on it. Steve Bisciotti made it clear during the press conference following the firing of John Harbaugh that no player has the ability to sign off on it. He wants input, but I have the power. That's what he said. I have the power. So at the end of the day, it was his decision. We don't know how involved Lamar Jackson really was. Josh Allen was there at every interview. Josh Allen was there at the press conference when Joe Brady was introduced. And I think part of what the Bills were trying to do was to get Josh Allen to not blame himself for getting Sean McDermott fired, because you could easily argue, if you're Josh Allen, it's my fault that the head coach is now gone. So at the end of the day, Bisciotti was making the decision, and they have to hope that Lamar Jackson is still on the same page. You mentioned restructuring. You mentioned the new contract. Bisciotti said, we want to get him extended before the start of free agency, and if we don't, we'll activate our priority to restructure the deal. All that does is it takes the $74.5 million cap charge that's on the books for this year and kicks the can into future years. He's under contract for 2 more seasons. They have no power, if power is the key word here, they have no power over him after 2027. He can walk away as a free agent. That's only 2 years away. And I know in the NFL that can be a lifetime, but in 2 years, the conversation may be, where's he going to sign next as a completely and totally unrestricted free agent? They need to get him to sign. And until he signs, until that deal is done, and it's a new 5-year contract that pays him $61 million per year or whatever it would be, to make him feel like he's being paid fairly, because 52.5 has been eclipsed by a couple of different guys. If it's 61, if it's 62, if it's whatever. Once that deal's done, then okay, this is where the guy is going to keep playing. Until that deal's done, I don't know what the hell's going to happen. And I think that's the biggest challenge, I think, for a Ravens fan, is to understand that there still is a chance that this is going to end with Lamar Jackson playing somewhere else. And I think this next contract is critical, and they have to get a 5-year deal or whatever, however long it is. They have to get the kind of deal done that makes it clear that well into his 30s at a minimum, Lamar Jackson's still going to be with the Ravens. Right now, it's undecided because the contract isn't done.
And that's where the what ifs can come into play, right, Mike? That's where who knows. Now, maybe I'm an optimist, or maybe just from what I see here, I would be shocked if he wasn't a Raven for the long haul. But until things happen, right, we don't know. And it's going to be, time will tell. But my inkling is that Lamar is going to be a Raven here for quite a long time. And I'm hoping, especially for the team's sake and for Lamar's sake, that they get back to the Super Bowl. Because, Mike, it hasn't been a good year for Baltimore sports in general. The Orioles didn't do well, fired a manager. The Ravens missed the playoffs, fired their head coach. We need to change some things, the voodoo here, maybe drink some more Pepto-Bismol, and that can change it up. But maybe one more thing, because the what ifs, this is the fun part of the offseason. You've talked a little bit about some of this so far, but there are some names that people are wondering about. Tyreek Hill is gone now in Miami. Bradley Chubb is gone now in Miami. The what if around Max Crosby. Does he want to leave? Does he want to stay? I don't know if all of those make sense, at least to Baltimore, but at least one of those options could make sense. I think the Raven move up front would say Bradley Chubb would be a candidate. But is there any other inklings that you're hearing or that you're curious about with maybe those 3 names I mentioned?
Well, when you mention Max Crosby, I think of Micah Parsons last year, because once it was clear the Cowboys were willing to trade him to get out of that contract mess that the team and the player were into, I said, if the Bills and the Ravens are serious about trying to get past the Chiefs, they should be at the front of the line trying to work out this deal to get Micah Parsons. And one of the things the Cowboys found out quickly, no AFC team was interested. It came down to the Packers and the Eagles, and they didn't want to trade him to the Eagles, so they traded him to the Packers. So with Max Crosby, I don't know. The Ravens put a premium on those draft picks, because a draft pick is the ability to pick a guy that you have scouted, that you're confident is going to develop into a great player, and have him under contract if it's a first-round pick for 5 years and maybe a 6th with the franchise tag if it comes to it. It's hard to give up that opportunity to get a guy who can grow into becoming a great player at a cheap cash and cap amount. So if we're looking at guys who may be available, Chubb, who'll be cut as of March 11, or Tyreek Hill, who has been cut and is available. And here's why Hill intrigues me. And I think you guys mentioned this when you reached out to have me on. 3 years ago, when the Ravens were at their wits' end to try to get Lamar signed, I believe 100%, and I would say higher than that, but we know that's statistically impossible, even though we say it anyway. But I believe 100% that the signing of Odell Beckham Jr. to a 1-year, $15 million fully guaranteed contract at a time when nobody was going to pay him $15 million a year, that was a factor in getting that deal done with Lamar Jackson. And if they believe that signing Tyreek Hill would have the same impact and get that deal done, if they think it's close and this is the thing that pushes it over the top, and here we go, we have Tyreek Hill to partner with Lamar Jackson, I wouldn't be surprised if they go after Tyreek Hill, because you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You add a capable receiver, and Beckham really didn't do much that year, but you add a capable receiver in Tyreek Hill, and you get the long-term continuity you're looking for with Lamar Jackson. So that's why I'm intrigued by Tyreek Hill to the Ravens, and also to the extent that Hill may go to the Chiefs or the Bills or some other team in the AFC, signing him keeps him away from those teams, and then you don't have to deal with him.
And you wonder how much a guy's going to have left in the tank and coming back from an injury. I would like to always bet on the player. that if you have a skill set and you have that talent, you do the right things, you're still going to be an asset. I think Tyreek Hill, we don't know if he's going to be back to being the cheetah, but we do know he will have value for a team. I think that's a no doubt, no brainer. Another guy that slipped under the radar, we had him out there in on Radio Row, is Hollywood Brown. And Hollywood there's been some cryptic tweets right now, or Instagram messages, right, Zach, of Hollywood and Lamar, that purple and black.
Yep. Posting videos as a Raven,
Could be a reunion. But it is a fascinating time. I'm excited for that. And I appreciate all the insight in your time. I mean, this isn't really a downtime for you.
No.
I guess. I mean, what else? I mean, you got the combine coming up, but what is going on in Mike Florio's world that we should know about?
I keep saying that this week I go from sleeping with both eyes open to sleeping with one eye open, and then it'll be both eyes open again. Next week in Indianapolis is going to be very hectic. We'll have access to a lot of coaches and GMs. We may be talking to Jesse Minter there. It's all to be determined. It's just crazy. The prospects come through one after the other. We talk to this guy, talk to this guy, talk to this guy, and then you have dinner with different people and you see different people, and it's just nonstop activity. And then free agency rolls around. So, hey, the true break comes after the draft, and then life is normal for about 6 or 8 weeks, and then it all starts up again. But off we go. It really is amazing when you think about it. I heard you talking on the way in. We just crowned a Super Bowl champion 10 days ago, and it's forgotten. It's forgotten. They have the parade, and the Seahawks are for sale, and the NFL moves on, and all 32 teams are 0-0. The late Dennis Green, who was the Vikings and Cardinals head coach, he called it the Valley of 0-0, and everybody's got an equal shot. And the NFL loves to be able to say, look, it can happen for any team. And the Seahawks were a 60-1 underdog to win the Super Bowl going into the season. The league loves that because it makes fans of every team. Doesn't matter which team. You can make yourself think this time of year. We're one off season away from having that party and that parade that'll be forgotten 10 days later because we got to focus on the next season.
I mean, and you can flip it on the other side. The Patriots, a team that, we thought they would take a step with Vrabel. Well, was that step going to the Super Bowl? Not many people thought it, but you know who's going to think it? The teams that had 4 wins the previous year. You're telling me there's a chance. Or if there's not a chance, you can be stressed. You can get some Pepto-Bismol, Mike, like we talked about. I think we both endorse this. It's done the job. It can help with anxiety and stress too.
Do you do it room temperature or do you do it refrigerator?
So I just opened this puppy up. So it's room temperature.
You really needed it, yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying
I needed to be a little cold, although the day that I relied on it, I didn't carry a cooler around. But man, that stuff's nasty. You really, I'm not looking for a Pepto-Bismol sponsorship here. It is a challenge to get it down, but it does do the job.
Oh, it's delicious. I mean, maybe this is part of my. So 2 things when I played, Mike, I'll let you get out of here. Is I found out tequila and Pepto-Bismol could be my best friend. Whether I had a good game, that would be the mixer. What would that be the name of? That's the pink elixir. I don't know.
I'd have to do some research into the Spanish language to come up with the right words to name the Pepto-Bismol and tequila mix. That could be potent. That could be popular.
You know what, Mike? Next time you come on, how about this? We have a name for that.
I'll have a name for it. The next time I'm on, I'll have a name for 1 part Pepto-Bismol, 2 parts tequila.
Beautiful. Well, I'm sorry I'm going to have to miss you at the combine, but I always appreciate your time. I know you're trying to relax, but I hope you can get a minute. And appreciate you taking time and look forward to talking to you soon.
All right, great talking to you guys. Take care.
Thanks, Mike Florio, everybody.